Everyone has seen that perfect image on social media. A stickman with sunglasses, sitting on his sun lounger facing the sea, laptop on his lap, coconut water next to him, and the caption, "While you're in traffic, I'm building my financial freedom." Sounds like paradise, right? It seems that the real secret of independence is to simply drop everything, run to the beach, and send emails between dives. But the truth is that this dream comes packaged in saturated filters and recycled motivational phrases, and almost no one realizes how quickly it turns into a well-made-up nightmare. In the first few days, the stickman really feels like the owner of the world. He takes a selfie with the sunset and truly believes that he will never suffer in an office again. But soon the noise of the waves starts to fight for territory with Slack notifications. The Wi-Fi goes down right at the time of the meeting, and the sun reflects off the screen so hard that you can barely see the sales charts. That environment that should represent peace and freedom becomes just an office disguised with the smell of sunscreen. And that's when the stickman begins to realize that maybe the problem was never the location, but the type of system he's still stuck in. And the more he tries to maintain the pose of working from anywhere, the more he realizes that, in fact, he has become a hostage of what he promised to escape. But calm down, this is just the beginning. Because in the next part, he will discover that the long-promised freedom was just the first trap inside an even more sophisticated prison. At first, he tries to convince himself that everything is under control. It's just an adaptation phase, the stickman thinks as he switches positions for the 10th time. Squinting to try to see something on the screen amid the reflection of the sun, he believes that, over time, he will find the perfect balance between enjoying the sea and answering a few emails. But then comes the dreaded Monday, and nothing changes. In fact, it gets worse. The freedom they promised seemed to mean fewer fixed hours, less pressure, and more time to live. But in practice, he realizes that he is working more hours than when he lived in a gray city and took crowded buses. The notifications start even before breakfast, continue at lunchtime, and intensify just during sunset, that exact moment that theoretically should yield another inspiring photo for social networks. The truth is that the stickman now carries the office inside his backpack, and this backpack weighs more than any traditional journey. Meanwhile, other tourists walk quietly, play in the water, eat ice cream, and take pictures without haste. He looks at them, looks at his laptop, and realizes that he has swapped his suit and tie for a cell phone with a running low battery and an unstable hotspot that drops every 10 minutes. The feeling of "I am free" lasts less and less until it turns into an uncomfortable thought. What if this is just another version of prison? The doubt begins to grow, and he realizes that if he stops for a few hours, everything falls apart. Spoiler, it's about to fall apart. Because from here, the show of the absurd will begin, and there won't even be time to put the laptop in your backpack. It is precisely when the stickman decides to try to enjoy a little, just a little bit, that the real absurdity begins to reveal itself. After days of repeating to himself that he needs to enjoy the privilege of being on the beach, he finally closes his laptop for a few minutes and decides to go into the sea. Nothing fairer, a quick 15-minute swim just to refresh your head and recover your spirit. But when he returns, reality hits him like a bucket of cold water, literally. He has lost an important connection with the company's most demanding customer. The cell phone, full of missed calls and messages in caps lock, makes it clear that the small moment of rest will cost you dearly. The result is immediate. 2 hours of tension, poorly formulated justifications, and improvised explanations about how I was in an area of instability and the connection suddenly failed. Meanwhile, the people around begin to observe this nervous, completely wet guy trying to balance his laptop on his legs full of sand and typing frantically as if he were in an emergency room. The beach, which is supposed to represent peace and freedom, turns into a bizarre scene, a curious mix of improvised co-working and a survival reality show. Each notification turns into a giant wave threatening to destroy once and for all the sandcastle of false freedom that he tried to build. The stickman realizes that he is not even close to living the work from anywhere. He is, in fact, trying to survive in a digital minefield overlooking the sea. And the most ironic thing is that all this, it's just the beginning. Because soon, he will discover that the famous barbecue of dreams, the one that would be the symbol of quiet life, will never even be lit. The idea of living near the beach always comes with that classic image, barbecue in the late afternoon. Friends laughing, light music in the background, and a relaxed stickman saying, "This is quality of life." From the beginning, it was this scene that kept the stickman motivated even when he had sleepless nights and endless meetings. He imagined that it was enough to live near the sea for opportunities to fraternize automatically arise. But in practice, he never has time to even buy coal. The day flies by between emails, video calls, and reports that need to be sent urgently. And when, finally, he tries to invite someone to that long-awaited barbecue, he discovers that everyone is too busy working on different beaches, building his own freedom. Each excuse is similar. "I can't do it today. I'm finishing a delivery. Call me next week. I'm full of demands." In the end, he is still there, alone, with his laptop open, looking at the sea with a strangely bittersweet feeling. The water is still beautiful, the sky is still blue. But none of this makes sense because the party atmosphere never arrives. The emotional distance is growing. The noise of the seagulls, which once seemed poetic, starts to irritate and disturb your concentration. Even the reflection of the sun on the water begins to look like a provocation. It is at this moment that the stickman finally understands. Barbecue never existed. It was just part of the marketing. A fantasy sold to mask the continuation of the same system. And when he finally accepts this, he realizes something even more cruel and silent. He is no longer living. It's just paying for a premium anxiety service with an ocean view and with automatic renewal. When opening another panel full of graphs, reports, and performance indicators, the stickman feels a small shock of lucidity cross his head. For the first time, he faces the obvious: the surrounding scenario has changed. But the system remains exactly the same. Nothing was really liberating. He just swapped the traditional office for a much more expensive subscription plan with an extra fee of illusion that promises freedom, but delivers double position billing, notifications, tight deadlines, endless task boards, and emergency calls. All this now mixed with sand accumulated on the keyboard and constant lag during video conferences, which even generates the need to repeat the same phrase 3 times while the seagulls scream in the background. At that moment he realizes, with a lump in his throat, that he is not living such financial freedom. It's just paying more to work even harder. Not even the sound of the waves can disguise the feeling of being trapped in a tropical hell with bad Wi-Fi, where every delayed email triggers a mini tsunami, and just when he tries to justify to himself, "At least I'm on the beach, ... the sentence dies in half, swallowed by a deep sense of failure. From here, the fall is inevitable. And as he slowly closes his laptop and stares at the horizon, a question begins to echo: is anyone else falling into the same trap? If you want to keep up with the rest of this story and avoid making the same mistake, subscribe now to the channel and activate the bell, because the next part is even more uncomfortable. One day, after so many frustrated attempts to balance work and life on the beach, the stickman decides to do something radical. He leaves his laptop in his backpack and decides to simply walk on the sand, without looking at the screen, without answering anything. Just walk. He takes a deep breath, feels the wind on his face, and, for a brief second, almost believes that it is still possible to regain that feeling of freedom that made him come there. But the moment is short-lived. Even before completing 50 steps, the cell phone vibrates strongly. A message in cold, objective letters appears. "We need this in 15 minutes." Without reflecting, instinctively, he turns around, as if he had heard a direct order from an invisible superior. And it is at that exact moment that everything becomes clear. No matter the place, the landscape, the sunset, or the sound of the waves, the system always finds a way to pull it back. The supposed freedom collapses before that notification, and the stickman feels his mind darken. There is no more beautiful landscape that compensates. The beach, which once seemed like a refuge, now reveals itself as a prison disguised as paradise. He realizes that the only thing really free in that scenario are precisely the waves of the sea, which come and go without worrying about deadlines, goals, or anxious customers. They simply exist. And in this brutal contrast, the doubt that tears through the chest arises: is there any real way to be financially free without becoming a slave in disguise? Or has all this always been a well-staged hoax? What about you? Have you ever felt something like this, as if even away from the office you were still trapped? Comment below, because the next part goes straight to that wound. Is it worth continuing to insist on this narrative of working from anywhere just because it yields beautiful photos and momentary likes? Or would it be better to admit that financial freedom has never been tied to location, but rather to the ability to break away from the system that turns everything into work, even sunsets? The stickman stares at the open notebook in the sand and feels his heart beat faster. Then he looks at the sea, where the waves follow their own rhythm, completely oblivious to deadlines, dashboards, and calendars. For a few seconds, he is between two worlds, that of appearance and that of truth. If you continue, you can continue to post photos of a life that seems perfect, even though he knows he is in prison. But if you decide to stop, you will have to face the void and start from scratch without guarantees, without ready-made sentences, without the security of a comfortable narrative. At this moment, he understands that real freedom is not romantic at all. It requires sacrifice, courage, and, above all, the willingness to break the chain that binds you, even if that chain is disguised as success. He closes his laptop slowly, takes a deep breath, and feels that he is facing the most important choice in life. Or is it still hostage to a well-made farce with an orange filter? Or take the first step towards a path that is truly yours, where time is not measured in billed hours, but in purpose lived? He looks at the sea one last time and asks himself, what life do I really want? What now? What choice will he make? And what choice would you make in his place?